Hi, this is Sir Flobojan Thunderhammer.
And I'm King Cabbage Tidehammer.
And this is WAK. We got a couple of serious ones under our belt.
I slept with the king.
And you become the champion day one and walk out.
I'm surprised your beards didn't get Velcroed together.
Explain that. You have to explain.
I haven't a clue.
That's why.
Some sort of LARP thing. I survived that. I'm not going to murder you.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. We were gonna do like different from the normal intro. Yeah.
If you wanted to, yeah.
Okay.
Something about hammer time, maybe.
Oh, God.
Yeah. When did you start recording?
4 minutes and 40 seconds ago.
It doesn't matter. I don't remember what we've been talking about. But
yeah. Nothing that can't go on the podcast, so we're good.
Oh, man. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hammer Time, where we discuss topics important to the three people sitting in the room in here and maybe some other people.
Yeah.
Interview also the three people sitting in the room in here and talk with interesting people from around the Thunderhammer Brewing Garage.
Ooh, Thunderhammer Brewing.
Oh yeah, no, we are officially a brewing. Did I not tell you I applied to get my my brewing license? I have a still coming.
Okay, I can't tell if this is sarcasm or not.
No, I can't either.
Can we break kayfabe for a second?
Yeah, no, no kayfabe. I ordered a still. You can order it from Fermentation Station if you're in Knoxville, Tennessee, over in West Knoxville. You can actually get a full still because in Tennessee it's legal to own one.
Well, and you live in a part of Tennessee where it wouldn't matter if it wasn't.
That's right. Who's going to tell on me? The cornfields?
I still kind of feel this is like a fire festival kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
I got one, and you have to apply for your liquor permit. There's two different kinds that you can get. I don't know all of the details, but one of them you have to pay for, one of them you do not have to pay for, but you can't make as much. I am getting the one that you do not have to pay for right now, and if I end up starting to produce more, then I can always upgrade it.
Oh, that's really
or
cool.
Not really tell anyone.
Or not really tell anyone, but I'd kind of like to get like a labeling machine.
I mean, that would be really cool.
Hey, we're recording, so discussing crimes? Not good.
Yeah, because this is the worst crime that
Yeah, right,
ever
right,
committed,
yeah.
right? Okay,
No.
I had a question for you guys. The point of this episode, now that we're 6 minutes or so in, you guys got to go to the event this last weekend. I unfortunately was working, so I didn't get to go. How was it? It's the first event that we've got to have in a while. Had a cap on people too, so it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But how was it? What'd you like? Give us the good and the also good.
Right. Well, okay, so before anything, I want to step in here and talk to people listening from out of Kingdom and just say, yeah, we had an event. And we're allowed to do that because I said we could. But also, we did it correctly. Like when we showed up, our prime minister ran up and checked our temperatures. We made sure people were capped, so we had no more than 50, including staff and everyone else that needed to be there. We knew ahead of time who was coming, and everyone wore masks. So for everyone who made that happen and for everyone who participated and didn't give anybody any flack about it, I want to give everybody a huge thumbs up because that was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we also didn't have anybody whining or crying about things.
Not at all.
So everyone just did their part. It was great.
Yep.
Well, cool.
Now, what did we like about it? Well, it was pretty much just battle games the whole day.
Okay.
So that's cool. For me, my favorite part, and this is going to sound, I'm not a big class person. I like playing Bard. But my favorite part was at the very end, we had a, what would you say, essentially like a rolling kill your killer.
It was a 3-man rotating chaos.
Yeah. So that was probably my favorite part. And it was just hey, wear yourself out until the sun goes down.
Oh yeah.
Look, everybody's tired.
Yeah, by the way, anyone that has a younger park, 3-man rotating chaos is 3 people have to be at the post. When they touch, they all come alive. They can go do things. They kill as a little team. It's cool for multiple reasons because you can learn team tactics with it. It's fun for wearing the younger amp guarders out once all of us old fogies have had it for the day and need to go oil our knees. And it's just generally a fun thing to do, especially if you still have some stuff set up. So any kind of obstacles or anything like that set up, and they can kind of play around that. It's another really cool thing to do.
Yeah, it's typically kind of objectiveless to a degree, but the spawning
Yeah.
mechanic can be used in other games and everything, so it's really good about it as well. Especially if you're in a newer park and a lot of newer players, you can use the spawn mechanics in a non-objective game to then build your knowledge base and things like that too.
Yeah.
Jeff also had a really cool idea of like making it have a win condition where you have like a red side and a blue side and you spawn at different sides.
Oh yeah, like it was off the cuff, so I don't want to say it's good.
Make a
per
perfect
se.
battle game right now.
Yeah, right. But like Splatoon does I don't remember what they're called. Lucas knows those. But
Splatfests.
yeah, so
Love
like
Splatoon.
it's ice cream versus cake or something like that. And then when you go and spawn, you spawn to your the one you want to support. And so it's kind of funny though, because like when you spawn, you're dying more often, so you're supporting your team by your sacrifice in a way. So it's a little backwards than most games, but it gives it an end. So it's not just like everybody's tired, let's go.
Yeah, so like red side has 100 lives and blue side has 100 lives, and getting through those, whoever has like lives remaining at the end would be the winner, or
You could do whatever you wanted to with it.
yeah, okay.
Who was it that we were talking to recently that was saying they really wish that we could bring life counts back?
Well, so
Man, that is
Michael Hammer
not-
of God.
Yeah, he was talking about that. He wishes that there was a way that part could come back. That he really appreciated that dynamic.
Well,
So-
his thing was in the context of role play, because when you have a life count, your role play matters more.
Yeah,
But this is just like a scoring mechanic. So I
Well,
don't
that's
know
kind
that
of the
they're-
thing. Like, no one's hamstrung with these rules, right? You were actually hamstrung by the old rules because you had a life count. You can enact life counts in your game design. Like, one of the things that I've been toying around with is 1 or 2 life games, so that you do have that, and it does allow for better role play because you have consequences.
Well, yeah, but if you do a whole weekend length event and say you're a warrior, you have 6 lives, right?
Yeah, I mean that's
That
where it
can be
gets in
harder.
kind of the problem is like I think one of the CCs may have happened in 7 where we had lives or something. Still, I don't remember.
We had the belt favors, the little bead belt favors, and
That's cool.
every time you died, you had to take one of the the string of beads off.
Yeah, see, and I don't remember I can't remember now if 7 had actual lives or not. I know 6 did.
7 did, yeah.
But
7 lives.
that was another way that you're still kind of hamstrung because everything was so balanced across the number of lives and everything. So you kind of made things worse in some ways because you made it closer to what it is now, but not balanced in any way, shape, or form, right? So the balancing issue is where the life count comes into play, because other spells that become more powerful, like the kill spells, like Call Lightning or something like that, right?
Or resurrect.
Or Resurrect becomes infinitely more useful in some ways. And that was kind of the big thing whenever I was playing Druid in 7, is that I could make 3 people basically have no fun the entire game. Like, I could Call Lightning one guy all the way through their death, and then Finger Death another person, and then stand by my statue who I petrified over and over again until they just quit, basically. So, like, the life mechanic thing is not good for new people either.
Right.
I can see a place for it.
But again, like, if your game is designed in such a way that you're using
Right.
life counts, that's different in some ways,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I one of the big things as far as game design goes is I hate when things get limited out of the rule book. Like, you can't do Golem because it breaks our game. Design a better game is my answer.
Design a better golem.
Yeah.
Well, so
Fight me.
So you have done quite a bit of battle game planning and stuff. You guys used to use what was it called? Midnight Mayhem or
Mayan Mayhem, yeah.
Mayan Mayhem. Thank you. And you've done a lot of other battle game planning stuff. Did it become easier when?
Hang on. Let's segue to this after we talk about the event part of it, like, because we went way off again.
Yeah.
Oh,
as is
yeah.
tradition.
Yeah.
Everyone
So-
sitting in this room has ADD. Of
Your
course.
favorite part of the event.
Right. So
Teflon.
my favorite part of the event was obviously games, since they were there. But for me, like, the second game was my favorite. It was kind of a take on Eye of the Storm from World of Warcraft. You have 4 bases and then a flag in the middle, and I don't remember the exact scoring method because this was the minor
There were kind
problem.
of two.
Yeah, this is the minor problem that I had with the event, and I think it's just so many people not used to playing any again because of COVID and stuff, and then
Yeah, a
also,
lot of
like,
shaking the rust off for sure.
yeah, so like that was the real big part because I started thinking about it because I had a big problem with the first one, but as I thought about it, Clover did a really good job, and one of the concepts that I really like in battle game planning is that if you have multiple games, you try to reuse mechanics so that no one has to learn anything over and over again. And we had these runes that in the first game, we had to go, they were like scattered about. We had to go find them, bring them back to our base. And then we had like 4 runes. I don't know how many they were, but there was a bunch of different runes and stuff. We had to find the matching 4. Once we had the matching 4, we gained a relic. I don't know if the relic holder could kill the monster in the middle or if the team could kill the monster in the middle. This is where I came in late, so I don't know if I missed it or if it just was unclear in general.
I didn't know either. I just know when the monster came out of the middle, I tried to kill it.
Okay, so I want to just clarify a point because I don't want to read tea leaves here.
Yeah.
I wasn't at the event. The you said this was one of the things that I didn't like about these two games. Are you referring to that?
The very first game is what I didn't like.
Okay.
But like looking back on it, I think it was more of just not paying attention to the rules or missing some of the rules or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So he introduced a mechanic that then carried over the runes specifically, or the
Right.
mechanic that carried
And
over the
technically,
second game.
Also,
Okay.
the way the point score happened, it just didn't do it. This is the one minor thing that I would fix in that setup is that he had the monster hand over his helmet. And then, so you killed the monster, then anyone can loot it. It was a looting 10 count to grab it, right?
Right.
And then you had to take the helmet and bring it back to your base to score a point. It was meant to go multiple times, but we took so long because we're bad now, I think is part of it. And we're all out of shape. That was very evident.
Yeah.
But had to take the helmet back to your base. Now, because there's a slight disconnect between the flag and the helmet, people aren't thinking, the same thing. And it's kind of a minor thing, but whatever you use in one, keep using the other. So instead of using the helmet, keep using the flails as the flags like they were in the second game is what I would suggest.
Yeah.
But yeah, both of the games had runes. You did things with runes with a book, and then you had a mechanic where you brought something to your base. All of the spawning was done in waves, and I
liked that.
I
thought it was
like the
cool.
waves, but at the same time, I think the problem with the games in general was just our space was real small.
Yeah.
So the wave spawning made the people who won the engagement first have a big advantage because not only did they win, they got their backup there just about as quickly
you
as
effectively had a numbers advantage.
Yeah, because
though the teams were even.
Well, you would have even, but you won, and then you won again, kind of because you didn't have to go anywhere really.
Yeah.
I like wave spawning if there's enough space, so it organically becomes a tug of war.
Right.
So like if one team has to flood over to the other side and it's like 300 feet long, right? Then whenever they die and come back in the wave, then the defending team automatically is strong and theoretically will fight back towards the middle.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So but in the second game, I liked the second game, and I think you were going somewhere with this. I don't want to speak for you, but
No, you're
the
good.
second game was set up like Eye of the Storm from World of Warcraft. The first expansion, where essentially you have 4 different objectives. Right. There are 4 different points you can take and hold.
The
And
graveyard, the sawmill.
That's
Arathi Basin.
Yeah.
Then, I'm so bad. All
Yeah.
the
All
WoW
good.
fans out there are going to be shaming me now.
No, it's fine. But so you could capture these points, but then the thing was there was a flag in the middle, and you had to take it to one of those points to cap it.
Okay.
So there were 2 ways to win. You could hold the most bases the longest, and like the timer would start to trickle down, or you could cap the flag a certain number of times.
Clover tried to do it, and I think that it's like a minor tweak that'll make it better. And I think, again, space is really what would have changed that game, too.
Yes, absolutely.
But like every spawn, you scored, I think, the number of bases that you had. But you also scored multiple points for
Capturing the
capturing
flag.
the flags. And there was monsters in the middle that had a spell ball that made you insubstantial, and then they could attack you while you were insubstantial. So if you were assassin and went insubstantial, you could get attacked by them and everything too. But the ball was claimed subdual, and I was playing barbarian, so I said I don't care about that. And so I couldn't be, ripped out. So I just walk to the middle, grab a flag, and walk backwards. I spent the entire game doing nothing but that.
I'm picturing this like an old cartoon where like they walk in the middle and the barbarian sees his buddy hit and disappear and sees someone else hit and disappear. And then he shrugs and walks over to the big monster there and is like, I don't know what happened to them, but you and I are dancing.
That's exactly it.
It fades to Elseworld where they're being... their minds are being ripped apart by wraith horrors or something like that.
So Agar was playing a monster, and I don't know if all of them had the same abilities or anything.
I think they did.
Yeah, so he had terror, and he was the only one who would cast terror on me, making me walk away. Occasionally, I'd grab the flag before he got it finished, and if he did, then I kind of walked back and very ineptly scream through two masks, basically because I have my goblin stuff on too, and a regular mask. To get either Samix or Elenia to come release me because it was bad.
Yeah.
But okay, you were saying something.
Well, so there were two scoring mechanisms in this game, but essentially my team had said, well, we'll just hold all the points and surely to God will win, but they weren't valued as highly. So we held 3 of 4 points for almost the entire game and still lost because Teflon's team just kept grabbing the flag, running the bag. They beat us by like 8.
Yeah, so I think we also didn't understand that the runes were...
This is why he's the squire.
Yeah, of course.
That the runes were everybody's runes. We thought that it was our team's runes. So when Vidalia died with all of her runes closer to their base, they like gobbled them up and we couldn't capture things as easily anymore.
Yeah.
So because I asked him how many can we carry, because we had, I don't remember, I think there was like 10, and you needed 2 per base or something like that.
This was the other thing.
Okay.
Is our team thought we could only carry 1 rune at a time, and later Arif clarified and said you can carry as many as you have hands. So we said, 2 runes. Okay, cool. And he got told he could bundle them all up in his fucking shirt like a flower girl.
Yeah, because I was like, how many can we carry? Oh, more than 2? Well, then I'll just carry all of them to the same spot and capture it and then methodically move on. So that's what we were going to do. But whenever all our runes, got killed, then that was a problem. But we had 3 of the 4 at 1.2. And I think you scored the amount of bases you had when you captured the flag or something. All I saw was, this is an extra bonus point thing. And if I can walk back and forth and not do anything, that was easy points. So the thing that I think would fix it is if you had to cap the flag at one of your captured points. Yeah, well, I don't think it would have fixed it in that particular area because of the space, which would have been unfortunate. Right. But again, I think that is still the right way to go about it overall. And having the spawning still be the 5th and 6th points, basically.
Yeah.
So space has been brought up like 2 or 3 times at this point now. Is this a situation where maybe like... and I haven't talked to Clover about this or anything like that, but was this battle game developed with the idea that it would be done somewhere larger, and then what we were able to secure was not as large as it had initially?
Maybe. I think it was conceptualized and then not really thought about space per se. But maybe he did, and he was like, oh man, I got to set it up in this small space. I don't know for sure.
The other thing too is we actually had more space. The field we were fighting on was actually quite big, but there were other people at the park.
Yeah,
we didn't take up the whole space because we didn't want to be dicks about it.
There was a sidewalk also that kind of went around the whole thing where we were, or almost the whole battlefield. So we kept, we kept a lot of space between the sidewalk and everything, so we could still abide by easily 6-foot rules and stuff like that too. So.
Yeah.
Oh man. So remind me after we finish up with this, I want to tell you guys this cool thing that I was talking to Gillen about, speaking of space and appropriate combat space and stuff like that. But
gotcha.
Elseworlds.
Okay.
Okay, so the 2 games total?
Kind of 3. The 3-man rotating chaos was definitely one I would count towards it.
Okay.
Both the games went pretty long. Like when I say this was an entire day of battle games, like I mean we had breaks in between and stuff, but like it was the majority of the time I think was spent playing.
I think that was also good. Like the break between the first game and the second game was a little more than I would have liked, but I think that was more Clover just needed to have someone else help him set up, and I don't know if he got the help or what.
Yeah,
happened.
Aldric was there. I think Cinnamon was helping him out too. It seemed like honestly for like one dude running the whole thing and having people help him, seemed like a pretty well-oiled machine.
Yeah. I'm not to knock Clover on doing anything because he's obviously doing great. Like that's not the case. Like this is the thing. Like for me is like
This is critique.
Yeah, this is what I look at. I like to hear the bad things that happen in a game because I have never gotten like, hey, this part is really good. Like the spawning mechanic's really cool. I've not gotten that stuff. I've only gotten complaints basically.
Right.
And so how I always take it is that, okay, if you complain about this is bad. I need to change this. But you didn't complain about these things. These are good things to keep around. So that's what I look at.
Yeah, I mean,
that's fair.
It sounds like, outside perspective here, it sounds like both of you liked the story of what was going on and things like that. It was just some of the mechanics were confusing, either because you weren't listening or because you heard and weren't paying attention or because it wasn't clarified or whatever. And there was a little confusion on the parts of the reads, it sounds like.
Yeah, that was, I think, how it was phrased. Like if it's hard to do because like if you don't have it written out like right in front of you, like Chase is really good about having his battle games like in front of him and his write-up set up, because I do this quite often that I'll set up something and then I'll phrase something slightly different and that semantics gives you the problems.
Right.
So I think that something we could do as like a kingdom or even just like Amtgard as a whole or in some ways or every kingdom or whatever adopt their own way, but a standard way of how to explain the battle games. Like here are the rules, here are the terrain rules, here are the things, here's the objective, and go, so that everyone can pay attention and you know what's going on.
So would you subscribe to something like the rules could fit onto an index card that you could hand out to the Reeve, so if they needed a clarification, they could pull it up real quick?
That's actually kind of cool, but at the same time, like there's a lot. Yes, in some ways. The only issue is like this is really dependent on who's playing, and this is a perspective based kind of thing on kingdom versus local level and stuff like that too.
Sure.
ELW is really battle game savvy, and their park in general has a better grasp on the rules than most other parks.
Sure.
So they're able to add layers that like our park probably couldn't do easily, because there's going to be 2 or 3 people maximum who would be like, okay, cool, I can do X, Y, and Z to do something.
Yeah,
Right.
and it almost becomes a there's a thing in languages online where it's like the single space language problem, where like, okay, perfect example, Twitter is way more popular in Japan, and a big part of that is in the US you're limited to 240 characters, and that's not a lot for us. In Japan, you can type a lot with 240 characters, as much as you really want to say.
Oh, that's
So-
cool. I had no idea. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so this becomes, if you really know your rules and you're from a really battle game savvy park, you can write on the index card skeleton per door, and then that's it. And whoever reads that from your park knows what the hell they're looking at.
Right.
And if you showed that to me, I'd go, "What's the door say about skeletons? I need to. Can you make it more?" And then you can't fit as much, and it becomes like a limiting problem if you think of it just as an index card.
Right.
Sure.
So I need to actually sit down and do it with all the games I have written up, but I want to try and develop like a standardized thing, kind of like the Book of War, if you guys have seen it or not, in something similar in the sense that you have this is a battle game map, this is the objective, this is the spawn points, these are the listed things, and it's very mechanical and methodical on how it is done, so that it's very easy to follow.
Sir Kazan said on the very first episode of this podcast, he had a book of all the old games that they used to play in Neverwinter.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And,
that's
like,
cool.
You should maybe steal some from that and rebuild it.
Oh yeah, well, so the kind of thing like Glenalth was down at my house a while back when him and Sarah were visiting, and one of the things that I didn't know about like Amtgard history was that Smiths used to be a guild. Like it didn't used to be an award, and now that it is an award, it's based on what the Smiths Guild did, which was building battle games and things like that. So I had thought about kind of bringing that back to a certain degree, like a household that's built on it. And then the first thing you did was you made a book. Well, it could be digital or whatever,
Sure.
But you make your book with your stand on how you explain everything. You can use like, Goran's Book of War or whatever as a full rip template or whatever. But like that's kind of the journey, is like building your own book and being able to hand it off to someone.
Make it your own chapter and put it all into one book.
Yeah,
Call
absolutely.
it the Battle Game Bible.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the.
Where
the
does it
plan.
say that? Well, in the first book of Jeff.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I would love that.
it'd be cool because at the same time, like if everyone's doing it in a similar way, then you can gather those things together and like, oh look, this one works really well, or these are 10 and under. Participant battle games that are obviously going to work. So you can hand this off to new parks in your group and stuff like that too. Like it could be a really organic thing, and it'd be really cool to get going.
Can I take us on a tangent?
Yeah, I think we can go to tangents now. We're pretty much covered what's good.
Okay.
The only other thing would be the dinner afterwards. There's some really good conversation that happened there, but.
Yeah, we'll get to Olive Garden. So this is something I think you and I were talking about it. I know I briefly spoke about it with someone, but they're doing V9 at some point. We'll see it. And there's been some talk of levels not being relevant, and I think you said something like, when you play a class, abilities unlock based on how many people are in the battle game.
Yeah, so one of the problems we have with V8 is like Barbarian is a busted class on a local park level with like 5 people aside or less, right? But it is a terrible class whenever it's a big battle game. They have so many downsides that they can't really compete with anyone who has enchantments and stuff like that, right? They don't have a big enough ability, and if they did, they would be even more busted on a local level. So like a kind of off the cuff idea I had was like you had abilities and stuff that unlocked with the amount of players that were active. The downside to that is like I can't really practice my kingdom level, whatever for Bard or Barbarian or however it gets designed. If it was designed that way, I can't practice that except at kingdom level. That may be a blessing and a curse. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's okay. It keeps people from becoming like professional bards. It doesn't, rule out Paragon, but it does mean that like everybody's coming at it with some level of amateurism.
Yeah, so I don't know if I want to get rid of levels per se. They need to be lowered. In my opinion,
they need to be gone.
They can be gone, or what I'm saying is like the equivalent to 6th level now takes 2 months. That's it. So that you still have a progression with it, and this allows people to progress in multiple classes quicker, so they can kind of they don't feel wasted for the first month that they come out. Basically,
maybe maybe have it to where it's sectioned off into just 2 levels, and what we would consider 1 through 3 are all one level that you play for 2 months.
Yeah, that would be perfect, and as far as I'm concerned.
Some progression, I think, is necessary, but just the idea, because the idea of limiting the abilities you have to how many people are on the field, or even to the type of game that you are building.
Type of game is harder because then it's not standardized what kind of games are what across.
Right. Well, have you looked at the surveys that they're doing for V9?
I mean, some of them, yeah. I've done all of them actually up to now. So there's 4, I think, currently. But
yeah, so the survey 4 has a lot of stuff about like battle gaming and reaving, and there's some, there's one question on that that's like, what would you like to see more of? And I checked the box for like, I would like more info on battle games, battle game types, and scenarios. Which to me indicates maybe that's something they're looking at for V9.
Potentially, but I doubt that was the way they were going about it in some ways. But I think that if you get too much in there about specific battle games, that you start hamstringing people's ability to create something too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the people who are truly wanting to create are going to still create, but it may make it to where someone gets a hold of their rule book and we can only play these games. And I don't really want that to be the case.
Yeah. Well, so what I was getting at, though, is there are already games that do this. I'm, of course, speaking of video games, but Final Fantasy XIV does this, where if you go into an encounter that is not your level, the abilities that you can use are brought down to the appropriate level.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about with the number of players thing, because that allows you to always have some sort of idea for balance. So you don't have like Barbarian currently that is busted on a low level or low number stuff, and then whenever it gets to high number of participants, it's really just not worth playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is it, by the way, that makes it not worth playing? Is it just the enchantments, the fact that they
They can't overcome as much. Like their abilities are cool. Like some of like Blood and Thunder is really good, but it's only twice per refresh. If refreshes aren't built into a game, then the barbarians like peter out really fast.
Yeah, they spike super quick.
But if refreshes are built in the game, then things like Druid become just bananas already more than they already are, right? Because then I just throw out all these enchantments, and it's almost like I don't need to worry about holding them back or anything.
I remember one of the park games that you set up for us to do, where we had a little, we were fighting around the trees. We had a little bucket, and we had to take the football and go put it in the bucket. It was really simple, but we had built it into where I think it was first to 5, and it wasn't win by. It was literally just first to 5. So you could theoretically have 9 points total. Every 2 or 3 points, maybe it was every 3 points, we had a refresh.
Yeah, mostly I did that because no one's really playing Magic classes.
Yeah,
so, but
right,
yeah, because the thing about Amp Guard that's really fun for one of your selling points is that you have these abilities that you can use multiple times and over again. But if you can't get them used, it's not as fun. I don't feel like anyway.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, there's plenty of ways that local stuff like that could get broken. Oh, you could have a bard that knew what they were doing, recharging some people abilities, and it could get just as broken that way too.
Yeah, absolutely.
The point though is that this was a really fun game. Like I wasn't involved in any of the planning or prepping of how that battle game was going to work. Didn't know what refreshes. Did not understand at that time how powerful refreshes were,
right?
And how to correctly use them, right? And I still had fun, but we had people on the field that did understand at that, because this was several years back that we did this, right?
Right.
We did have people on the field at that time that did understand how powerful refreshes were. You understood. Beefy understood. Not that Tamlin guy, though. There were other people there that knew how powerful they could be, and it was still a lot of fun for me, someone who was very much on the outside at that time and was not comfortable or familiar with any of the rules. So part of it is kind of the culture at your park.
Yeah,
too,
that's going to be a thing too, and that's why I don't want too much information inside. Like I would want basic things like ring the bell or capture the flag or something like that mentioned and detailed pretty well. But I don't want to come to a point where like this is the standard battle game. If anything is not this, then it's not competitive or anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, could you? And this is a question I don't have the answer to. Could you not class battle games in some way?
Example.
So some battle games you need to kill a big bad monster. So all of those fall under big bad monster.
Oh, it's like WoW fights. You have your classic tank and spank. You have your shuffleboard, or what was it called? Musical chairs.
Dance party, I think.
Yeah, dance party or whatever it was. So yeah, I see what you're getting at there.
you can, because this is one of the things that like Vash and I both agree on is that there is mechanics done already for us in multiple areas, right? And all we have to do is rip them and reskin them, and we can put it into Amp Guard no problem. You don't really have to think about too much about your core mechanics as long as you can apply them to the game. Like a Destiny 2 raid or something like that could easily be grabbed and put in.
Oh, I like that.
But you have to think about how the classes and stuff are going to interact. And that's really the hard part about game design on a really well-designed game, is that the classes don't break too well or too bad. Like getting a game designed where insubstantial is really busted is kind of annoying whenever not all classes have an ability to deal with it, you know?
Yeah.
And if the blessing and curse of V8 is that things are trying to be balanced one to one, I still think that the magic classes are really like 1.5 to 2 to 1. And we just need to lift the martial classes up a little bit is all.
Yeah, there was something proposed about archetypes. So like Warrior had an archetype and I forget what it did. And
yeah, I think I don't remember what I called them, but like the capstone abilities, like for Druid, there's Avatar Nature and Summoner and stuff like that. I think that all of the martial classes deserve to have those things too. So like, I don't know, Scout could be like Skirmisher and they get specialty javelins or something that they normally don't get to use javelins, but that one did with some kind of like downside, like -1 point of armor, or they lose some of their abilities or something like that.
yeah. That would be cool. I don't think you class battle games though. I do think that's wrong. I think I'm wrong about that. I think
No, I still think it's there because, sorry, I totally forgot because I got on a tangent. But like, you can still kind of get them. Sometimes it's like bring a thing to a thing, or
yeah. Well, I guess I'm saying I don't think you should like build the classes and how they work around a categorization.
Oh no, yeah.
Like balancing that around number of players makes sense. Balancing that around a play type, still you can still break stuff.
You still run into problems because of how many people can actually realistically play in that play game type. Basically,
yeah. I found 2 free brain cells and rubbed them together and realized that.
No, but I still think classing the things, because that's again like with the Smith thing I was talking about. You could still do that was one way to organize them. You could organize them, and these are capture the flag style things. These are capture the point style things. These are kill the big bad evil guy things and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily a bad idea. It's just a different place, I feel like.
Can we spend more time talking about how classes shouldn't have levels?
Oh, hey.
Oh yeah, they again like the 1 and 2 level thing would be really great, or no levels at all. To some degree, I really think it insults the intelligence of new players. To some degree, there are a lot of interactions in our game, so like I understand the progression, but the problem is I always felt like I couldn't do anything for 2-4 months realistically until I hit a level that I got like a key ability. So
yeah, it seems arbitrary.
We're sitting here talking about battle game stuff, and it gave me this. It gave me an idea. I was thinking of handing out cards, numbers, colors, something like that to everyone. So, say everyone has cards would be a good example. There's 4 suits, right? So you have 4 different things going on, and in the fight the big bad fight, they can control. And so when they control, everyone that is a spade suddenly...
Oh, that's actually really cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
And you don't have to immediately... I mean, it turns into a backstab fight, which can be not fun, but something along those lines. Hey, let me ask you a question outside of my dumb idea for a battle game. Are we going to see more Maya Mayhem or something like that? I know that you had a crew that you were doing it with, and that's kind of... A lot of them have kind of drifted or moved or something.
So, kind of touching on something we talked about actually at Olive Garden in some ways, fighting companies are more or less dead, like in Winter's Edge right now. Like, there's no reason to have a fighting company.
In Amtgard.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It depends on other kingdoms and stuff. I can see where they have, like, I think Rising Winds has the Circle of Steel, which is like the captains of all of the fighting companies. Yeah. Gather, and then they kind of like discuss what games they want to do and how they want the formats for them and stuff like that, so that no one company's trying to like accidentally put it in favor to them or maliciously put it in favor to them or something like that. And it's like an agreed upon rules thing. I think is really good. But yeah, so I was going to try and do it, I think last year. Yeah, it was last year, but then Triad Practice became the same tentative weekend that I had planned. And so with the Triads gone, like right now, or at that time, realistically, the only 2 fighting companies that was like big was Seraphim and Triads. Right? There's still like what is it, the Zodiacs, and then my company at the time was Maelstrom.
Who are the yellow and black?
They're the Revolting. I don't remember if they were. Yeah, they were a thing at that time too. That was what I wanted to do, is even bring those 4 groups.
That's what they're called.
Yeah.
I was just like, Clover's Fighting Company, whatever that one is.
Yeah. Bring like those guys together and play games. So the Mayan Mayhem plan was to do like a ditch battle, a militia battle, and a class battle. And then each of them were assigned points, like 3 points for the class battle, 2 points for the militia battle, and 1 point for the ditch battle or something like that. And you would get points for if you won the full section of it, basically, right? And me and Samix, I can't remember if I approached Samix or Samix approached me, but we have some tentative things for a Mayan Mayhem at the moment. My thing with games is I like props because I think it's cool to have the visual.
Yeah.
So I've got the new walls.
Yeah. What list your props for us real quick?
Oh, we don't have enough time for all of that.
You're the carrot top of Amtgard.
Oh man, that's
I'm
so
sorry.
amazing. I love it. I'm not gonna lie.
His basement is no, we need to do that now. No, his basement's full, man. It's and the crawl space underneath is full.
Yeah,
and
I got a bunch of stuff. Mostly, so like the walls take up a lot of space.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got, so each section of a wall is 6 foot tall by 8 foot wide.
Yeah.
So it blocks vision for most people, not Flo though.
Hey Chuck, how you doing?
Yeah, right. So each section of that, I've got, I think it's 8 to 9 sections of that stuff, and depending upon the PVC connectors that you use to set the walls up, you can kind of make different sizes and shapes and stuff like that too. So my idea with the walls was actually to do like a CSGO style bomb plant.
I love
game.
this so much. Do it.
Like you have 2 sites that you can plant the bomb on, and then once it's planted, it has to be diffused within X amount of time.
Can I be the bomb?
So I don't like
Yes.
humans typically.
Yes.
So my original idea was to have like Paya made a dynamite stick.
I remember this
I
in
made
the,
one
in the
too.
treasure chests.
I don't remember if it was in treasure chest or not,
Yeah,
but he made one.
had
It was
some in the treasure
several
chest.
fun noodles just kind of taped together, and then
Yeah.
had rope that went in them, and then tied on the top, and it looked straight up like a comical cartoon dynamite
Like
bundle.
Acme Dynamite.
Yeah,
I
Acme
remember,
Dynamite
yeah.
bundle. So I made one of those too. So my thing was with that, like normally everyone's like, oh, you have to have a free hand and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other for carrying the item. And I was like, nah, screw that. You can hide it behind a shield and do whatever. Because the idea was that the defenders didn't know where the attackers are necessarily, or the bomb for the attackers, because you can have someone sneak off and go plant it somewhere else. But as soon as you died and you had it, you had to literally toss it in the air and then drop it. So there's a big visual cue on it, and then the defenders knew that it was dropped. They can yell to their other team. They can come across, and with the walls, what I want to do with them is have a visual or a line of sight blocking thing. So you literally have to communicate like through a back channel to your team. So you're having to do a lot more communication. It's not just like scan the area. There's the objective.
You guys have both been around long enough to remember this, but we used to do a lot of park battle stuff. I remember specifically going up to, was it Hawks Point?
Hawks Point was one of them, yeah.
Yeah, where we had the huge battle up there. Now, I understand that there's problems because, different parks will bring different amounts of people to an event, and the
We
skill
actually touched
level
on this slightly.
yeah, and the skill level from one park to another can be very different as well. I mean, you doing okay over there, bud?
I muted my mic so I could adjust my chair. You ruined the illusion. Now everybody has to hear the scoots and the...
Yeah. It's concrete floor you're on there.
Sorry.
No. So there's also a skill gap from park to park, and I'm not being mean about this, but I mean Radiant Valley, our average tenure per player is something like 13 years at this point.
Yeah, but we totally in a class game get busted by ELW.
Oh,
Yeah.
we would. We absolutely would. And I think that they probably, even if they had fewer people, if they had a third the people that we would, I think we could probably
Yeah.
still bust us, right?
Well, look at that the other way, too. We would get busted in a class game by the folks at Buccaneers Respite, but they haven't been playing long enough. They're all level 2.
Yeah.
Right.
But they're
So-
smarter than we are about how they use their classes. They just aren't level 6 yet.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Again, get rid of or lower class levels, like a lot.
but is that idea worth reforming?
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite like battle games that
I swear I wasn't there. I don't know what you guys
You
talked about at Olive Garden.
were
but
there. I know, right? You were here for the battle game, but
Yeah.
one of my favorite battle games is I don't remember exactly how the teams were split, but I know I was a triad at the time, and then you could team up with your fighting company, and I don't remember if numbers were placed on them or anything for this particular one. It's the flag battle one and Neverwinter. But like every team had a flag, and the flag, I think that they were provided, but I'm not 100% sure.
was this the one on the baseball field?
Yes.
The one where I had to strip all of my clothes off and run around half naked?
You didn't do that, but yes.
No, I did. You don't remember.
No, I don't remember.
The fire ants.
Oh no, I forgot about that. Yeah.
No, I was wearing a lot of quilted garb that I had made. The first quilted triad garb that I made, and I got legged, and I had all the flags, but they didn't know it because we were allowed to hide them, and so I just sat there,
Right.
and I'm like,
But the problem was no one realized it except for like a couple of us, me being one of them, that if they had a flag, there was a reeve near them with a timer.
Yes.
So all you had to do was look for the reeves
in that
instead of the
battle.
flags.
I remember Roger Shrubstaff of Winter's Edge, was standing beside you while you sat there with I'm going to say 12 flags on the field for I don't know how long. And everyone kept wandering
As soon as
around.
I grabbed I grabbed a bunch of them and then I just darted to a corner and I stood in the shade in the corner hoping no one would pay attention.
Well, it's 100 degrees because it's Florida too.
Yeah.
So, and they stood there. At no point were you, like you were standing there.
I wasn't trying to hide them or anything like that.
Nothing.
No.
And, but no, so at a different point in that same day, there was a big battle. Lots of people died. I lived, but I don't think anyone else on the team did. And I picked up the flags, but I was legged. And I think you weren't allowed to kill yourself and all of the team was dead. Or it was something weird like that. But so I was sitting out in the middle of the field with a reef sitting beside me with all of these flags, right? And my new quilted that I had made, the crotch had totally ripped out, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know how long I sit there, but I feel a bite. It's Florida, right? Mosquitoes everywhere and stuff like that. And so then I feel another one and another one. And I looked down and realized that I'm on a fire ant mound. And so I just ripped off everything that I was wearing in the middle of the field. And I went screaming towards the little...
See, I think right before that though, like
Alligator
before you
Lagoon.
got the fire ants, like I ran by you and either picked up or dropped off all the flags. I can't remember for sure because like
I think you picked them up because I think that's when you went over to the corner.
Yeah,
we were
maybe
trying to
so,
do a
yeah.
handoff. Yeah.
But so the general idea of the game is like you have multiple teams and you got to choose which team you were on. And if you didn't have an association, then you could be part of the militia. One of the times someone who has been banned semi recently had a team and he brought all of these sashes that had the Decepticon logo on it. And I was on a different team at the time and I was really mad because I wanted a Decepticon sash. but yeah, so you had like the Triad team, I think the Seraphim team, you had the what is it, Phoenix Guard or something like that?
Yeah,
I think
that was Russ's company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember if there was another fighting company there at the time. I think there was, and then a militia. I think there was 5 teams. And again, it was get the flag, hold the flags. You get points, or you whoever held the most time on flags. So like I could hold each one for 5 minutes, and that's a lot of points, basically. So
yeah.
That was the game. And so those games, I think, still can't exist in this setup. It's just we don't run them for some reason. I think we're really stuck on it's a one side versus another competitive-ish game, or it's like you've got some random things that are happening and it's a little teams kind of thing that isn't like a cohesive competitive thing. And I think that some of that needs to come back. And if that comes back, we have a chance to have fighting companies that mean something again. Other than just, hey, this is a group of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's fighting companies. One of the deaths of fighting companies in our game, and I'm going to say our game, not just our kingdom, is that they, over time, they tend to fold in on themselves. So you have situations where, and some of our listeners may not know this, but the Triads were originally rogues. And they were known as the Florida Rogues. And the 3 original captains broke off from the Rogues for their own personal reasons. And they formed the Triads. And then they started bringing people in. And we brought quite a few people in. And then the Seraphim broke off from the Triads for their own personal reasons. And now we have the Seraphim and the Triads and things like that. Justicars broke off from Rogues as well. You had this one big company, and then splinter companies fall out from that, right? Well, over time, those will start to disappear. And you end up, in the end, in most kingdoms, I feel like, with 2 to 3, I won't say 1, but 2 to 3 companies. You'll have some other smaller companies going on, right? But people don't want to join those smaller companies, or...
Well, I mean, this is a conversation I've had with Beefy, not Tamlin.
Yeah, that guy's a jerk.
What a dick. But essentially it becomes, in specifically for Winter's Edge, you have the Seraphim and the Triads. Those are the 2 big companies. And let's say that I join Teflon's company, the Maelstrom. So I joined the Maelstrom, right?
He rolled his eyes at you.
I'm sorry. I was drawing a fucking blank. So,
No,
there's-
the eye roll is because it really doesn't exist again at the moment. So
Well-
I'm the company killer.
well,
You are.
yeah. So let's say that I join the Maelstrom, and then let's take this fictional scenario further and say I get really good at fighting. One of those other two companies is going to try to scoop me up. If I hit my 9th warrior out of fucking nowhere,
Sometimes.
the triads.
We don't. So this depends on the company's rules, though. Like there's several companies that won't poach. They won't go to another company.
I actually wanted to use my Maelstrom as like a farm team, so to speak, like get them off the ground so that they can go to whatever company they wanted
Sure.
to. Like,
I like the idea of that, but then you're going into it knowing that.
Right.
So the Maelstrom could never be a super competitive company.
Yeah, but at the same time, you have people like me who are just laid back who eventually just stay. Like Walbaron and I, that was kind of our thing. Is like everyone who's always been in it or who has been in it is always welcome to come back. There's no like strings
miss
attached kind
that
of
guy.
thing. I know. Yeah.
Well, and you can talk about not poaching all you want, but if I get to my 9th warrior and I've got real potential, the not poaching thing becomes, okay, we're not technically poaching, but like I do happen to have an extra set of garb in my car that's your size, bud. I'm not going to say you should leave your company, but if you ever did, right, it's right here. It's like Hoshier does with Teflon all the fucking time.
Okay,
We're like,
but-
we wouldn't poach anybody, but also if you ever want to come back, there's garb for you.
Yeah. Okay. Hosh does, along with other people, do say that about you, and they say it about Jay too. But again, this is a situation where they were in the company at one point, right? It's different. Listen, I'm not.
It's
saying,
either a no poaching rule or it's not.
No. It is. That is not the way that it works. And I'll say too that this is also some like light joking and teasing among friends
Right.
and stuff like that. Though you guys should come back, but I mean, so let's look at this too. Like I think that I could argue that there's really only one large fighting company in Winter's Edge.
Yeah, it's Seraphim.
Yeah, because so here's why I say this. When was the last time that the Triads, my own company, fielded a team for a battle game? When was the last time that we fielded something in a quest?
Well, that's also the kind
When's
of
the
the
last time you
thing.
had a reason to.
Right. There's that too. That's what I want to. Me and Samix were talking about the new Mayan Mayhem is trying to provide a reason for companies to do something in a scale that allows newer companies also to participate in. So like a 5 to 8 player battle game type mechanic or something like that. So like A, you don't have to try and get your whole damn team there, and B, it allows smaller groups to actually compete or try to compete at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And I get the whole like, oh, you have a reason. Like you've introduced a competitive journey, like a competitive goal for this company to go to. But you were there. We didn't need a reason to participate in all of those battle games that we did before. We didn't need a reason for you and Jay to sit down and come up with the best scenario for winning Banner Wars, which involved creating, because they had no stipulations on how a flag worked,
Oh, yeah, we
creating
were
a
gonna
50-pound concrete flag or something like that. We did it because we wanted to be as one of the best fighting units in the game, in our kingdom.
But
we
there's-
did have them targeted. We targeted Rakkus for jugging at one point. We targeted Banner Wars, although we never competed at one point. And then we, before the flag battle game we were talking about earlier, we had to all have some sort of armor at that point too. Everything was targeted to some degree, and I think that's what actually is lacking for the Triads. And specifically is that a goal, an end goal to compete for or to move towards.
Right. I'll put this out there. When Rutger Hauer died, I guess this was last year now, we said we're going to have a day of jugging at
did,
Radio
yeah.
Valley.
Oh, it was great.
And more triads than I've seen in a long time came out for that. If I took the rest of my reign and said, every month we're going to have a jugging tournament at a randomly selected park and it's going to be company based, do you not think some of y'all would
this is
find a
where
way
I
to
think
get
the
there?
Circle of Steel type thing can
Yes, they
really
would.
come into play. Like if all the captains were like, no, we want to do jugging. Jugging's a cool thing. You guys don't need Kingdom permission to do it. You can
Right.
run your own league. You can be like, all right, this month it's the Triads versus Seraphim, or it's the Zodiac versus the Revolting, or something like that. Like it can be done. It doesn't like this is another,
Yeah, it doesn't
like,
have to be
tangent.
by the kingdom.
Yeah, this is another tangent that I get off on that everyone's like asking permission to do stuff. Like whenever I was regent last term, I had people asking me, "Hey, I had this really cool idea. Can I do it?" And I'm like, "Why would you ask me if you can do it? Just go do it. If it's a
get
cool
that all the
idea,
time.
just do it." Like
Can
I
I
don't
do this
understand
thing?
this permission
Yeah, you can.
thing. Yeah, like like I ran Mayan Mayhem because I was like, the games are kind of stale at the Kingdom event, so I'm going to try and do something as a day event, and that's where Mayan Mayhem started.
But this is a personality thing too for you.
I mean,
because
sure.
you're very much an ask forgiveness instead of permission sort of guy.
Not even for forgiveness.
But some people aren't like that. Some people are very much like they would like permission, or they want to make sure it's not going to interfere with something that you're doing. It's the asking part I don't necessarily have a problem with, but, and I know that this is going to sound somewhat contradictory, I don't have a problem with people stopping and asking, but I'm also kind of the same mind that you are, that if you have this cool thing, maybe it should be phrased in a way that, like, I want to do this cool thing. When can I do it?
Yeah, it's not so much asking permission. Like, I don't like the asking permission part. I like the heads up. Hey, I want to do this thing. I'm going to do it here. That gives both parties be like, oh man, I was about to do something on this date or this time frame or whatever. Can we work it out? That's totally different to me.
Google Calendar is fucking free.
Yeah,
and I'm going
Yep.
to say, as a monarch right now, I really have like 4 things in any term that I have to do. And during not COVID times, one of my responsibilities in the first 30 days is to put out a calendar of events.
Sure.
So if you work around that, I don't give a shit what you do. People come to me,
100%.
can I do this turn? Can I do an ANS thing online? I'm like, yeah, I'd love it if you did that.
Yeah, please.
Also,
do you need my help? No?
we should
Fucking sick.
100% continue ANS online tournaments and
Yes.
stuff like that past COVID, even, when we're meeting together and stuff like that too.
Absolutely. That's something else that came up at the Olive Garden, but I want to get back to the fighting companies, and if we give, if we build it, will they come? And I think the answer is yes.
That's where I'm having a hard time with, because I don't know for sure. Because so Xander from I don't remember if it's technically Belgarth or if it's another or if it's Dagger here. I don't remember what his main game is.
I think it's Dag.
But he did a lot of stuff where they had the 4 Horsemen tournaments and stuff like that, where it is like units versus units in their game. And one of the things that I think Amtgard in general doesn't do well is to maintain the good rivalries very well.
They always become kind of sour.
One of the stupid things that we did whenever I was playing soccer was that you'd always at the end of the game you'd line up and then you'd go shake hands, high five, whatever.
Yeah.
I think we need to start doing that kind of stuff when it comes to the competitive games. Like occasionally you'll see people do it because there are some who have that ingrained from whatever sport or whatever, and some of it may be just like some people haven't played sports so they don't even know that exists,
Right.
or something like that. So, like, I think we need to establish that kind of culture.
Are you insinuating that Amtgarders might not have played a sport growing up?
Yes.
No, as a person who's never been particularly good enough to be in a fighting company, I still love the idea of company battles. Like, I enjoy them quite a bit. Like, the ones we did in Florida were super awesome because, like, if my company or if my unaffiliated team managed to take out a good chunk of Seraphim, like that was a bragging right for everyone.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I had that kind of thing. Another one very similar to that flag battle we were talking about earlier, like the old evil French team before I was a Triad. It was the Saracens, the Triads, the Decepticon team, and then the evil French.
Yeah.
And me and Lexi rolled the crap out of the Seraphim team almost single-handedly, and that was a really cool feeling. And I think those can still be reproduced. Again, like the multi-teamed battles is still a good thing that can happen.
Who was it? You mentioned they got banned. Maybe we shouldn't talk about this. Who was it that did?
It
the-
was Brennan. Brennan brought
No,
all
wait,
the.
Brennan was.
Yeah,
It
I
was
think
who?
It was. Yeah, that guy.
I think we timed it like shit.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That was way loud.
Turning it down right now.
So
What?
to anyone that's listening to this on headphones or something, I'm so sorry. There's no way I'm going to be able to fix that.
The
in
warning
post.
can't come afterwards. We could totally fix it in
Just
post.
cut and
Yeah,
splice
I'll
it,
just
man. Don't
I'll
worry
just
about
cut it all out.
Yeah,
I'll
that's-
just make
yeah.
a dead noise.
But yeah, again, I think that's something that can be done. And again, I was talking with Vash about this or Chase a little while ago. Is that like Vash does really good like one team versus another games. Clover does like some interesting different perspective games, right? And then usually what I try and do is multiple team games. I like the aspect of having 3+ teams competing for something at the same time. And I think that mix is important, and I think we have lost some of the mix of the 3+ team thing. And I think that also lends to the fighting company thing. Because also at the same time, like, how often does the entire Seraphim get to field a team together or something like that, right? Like, even if it was just Seraphim versus the world, that would be really cool for, I think, everybody, you know, or something like that too.
So Beefy had not Tamlin had a really cool boat battle that he did.
Oh man, those boats are cool.
That could be an awesome 3-person game.
Yeah, I think it was actually a 3-person team game.
Yeah, it was. It was a 3-team
or
game. Yeah. I said 3-person, which would be very boring.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel really bad.
Again, props are awesome.
They really are. I feel really bad about that too. So Beefy Not Tamlin was given an award for a very well deserving award, not just for that single game, but for other games that he's run too, and cool stuff that he's been doing. So I was cleaning out my garage, and sitting right over there on my bookcases that you guys can't see right now is an award where he was given this exact same rose that he was awarded for all of the work. No, that's going to be all my old stuff, man. Yeah, that big stack right there, that's all
I mean, Lexi and I both have, she actually kept all of our awards, and it's in like a 3-ring binder thing, but we have a bunch of old awards from, 2006 or something like that too. Like we have, I think, Dale's Third Warrior or something like that.
Yeah,
like
right.
It's ridiculous.
And so he has gone and found the paperwork here. It came from Neverwinter. It was not entered into Orc. It actually came from an old. No, I'm sorry. That's just a photocopied Kingdom of Neverwinter page. It actually came from Squinty, who was a Winter's Edge person.
Oh yeah, we were lazy early games.
We were.
It was bad.
So I felt really, really bad when I found it. We weren't in the habit of entering awards way back then, the way that we do now, and didn't have the system. So, King, is there anything that we can? I don't want to go off on a
Putting me
tangent.
on the fucking spot here, bud.
No,
Really?
I know, and I also don't want to go off on a tangent on the whole like. Who knows whether if that had already been entered, the king at the time, which was Anomaly, would have thought it was worthy of the next level or something like that. I'll turn in an award rec for it. The guy has done
just
more than enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm looking. He got his 6th in January of 2013.
It's laughable. It really.
Given
the
I'm
amount of work
laughing
that the
because
guy
it's really
does,
sad.
given the amount of work that the guy does and things like that, it really is laughable that it was that long. So put in award recs, people. It's important for your friends.
Yeah, and
Hype your friends up.
This is something that we gotta fix.
Especially hype Teflon up.
Christ. Oh man.
But yeah. So hey, Beefy, if you're listening to this,
Not Tamlin.
And you want, not Tamlin, that guy's a jerk. And you want your other 6th, then, and I want to say too, all of us have had awards that were double awarded. I actually think that I have 4 4th or 5th dragons, whatever dragon I'm on right now. And it's because for a long time, we were bad at giving award, or like giving award. We were bad at entering awards. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Well, I mean, we also potentially lost data whenever the orc stuff moved.
We did.
Because I think people lost credits. I don't know if they lost awards. I don't know. That was whenever I was on my break, so I don't know how bad it was on the move and everything like that.
I was Kingdom Prime Minister for I don't know how many times, and my credits are still messed up. I never fixed them. Like when they did the transfer, I am 6th level in all classes except for Monster, the Paladin, Anti-Paladin classes, and
I think Druid or something silly.
Yeah, and Druid.
Yeah.
Because I started signing in as Druid to get it. And when everything got transferred over on Orc, like I had something like 800 credits in Wizard after the transfer.
Yeah.
And it got fixed somewhat in that like some of them got moved over to color and some got moved over to other classes, but
yeah, I'm like a level 4 color and I don't remember ever signing in.
Right.
Do you think some of that might be because a lot of times you either sign in as Beer or Zeb's dad?
Oh, I started signing in as those because I had maxed everything out except for Druid. So
Okay.
And it was because I hated Druid at the time.
Yeah.
It was
busted, still busted.
Yeah, it was busted, still busted. I viewed Druid as a nothing but an enchantment candy class, and
Yeah, they also have Golem now.
I hated that. I hated that idea. I mean, you could do some crazy stuff with Druid back in the day too. Like you could go bow and then use, what was it, shillelagh or something like that would increase wooden weapons damage.
It was magical projectile
And-
in 7. You could add
and then get like an
points on
8
it.
or 9 point
Yeah,
arrow.
but it was useless in some ways because Archer was already shooting that as stock.
Yeah,
you
I know.
from their longbows because they had distinctions. That was really bad.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So, we went off on this tangent on awards, and I don't even remember what originally.
Yeah, it was make sure you put your requests or recommendations rather in for your friends. And
Yeah, and especially for Teflon, I think it said that. And but yeah, no, the battle game thing I think is a big deal for non-company and company. I hope that it could be reformed in some way that companies will begin showing interest in it again. But the point that I was originally trying to get at before I went off on that long tangent was the people in that company also kind of have to have some level of investment too.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You know,
And that's again where I was like kind of going with the culture aspect too, is like
Yeah.
and why I think a Circle of Steel kind of thing is actually a really cool idea. But you have to have people who are willing to commit to it on all ends. So,
I mean, it's not that I'm not beating up on my company. I'm really not. I know that it kind of sounds like I am, but there was a culture shift in the company at one point where things like, and we've talked about this on the show before, but tournament fighting and things like that became more important. It is a completely different aspect of the game. It is its own monster. It has its own set of mental stresses and criteria and all kinds of other stuff, right? We shifted at some point to focus more on that. We started doing our to 5s and to 10s and recording them and watching them and having other members of the company critique them and stuff like that, specifically because we wanted to win tournaments and produce sword knights.
right.
And though that does not have to come at the cost of also liking to do battle games and
It's
things
still
like that.
time that's spent that's different, so it's not a focus.
Right. So, I don't know. It's tough. And I'm not excluding myself from this group either. I am a part of that fighting company. I also am guilty of all of the things that I was just now talking about, right? For the longest time, I mean, anyone that saw me at Kingdom level events knows that I wasn't out there competing in the battle games, and for a very, very long time, I was in every single battle game.
Yep.
And because it just wasn't something that really interested me as much. And then when I started to get really interested in it again, part of which was because of some of the work that you were doing, Teflon, there was a new rules set to learn, and I make fun of, we kind of make fun of the age thing a little bit, but, and I'm really not that much older than you guys, but I am very much like an old dog in new tricks in many ways when it comes to stuff like this, right?
Yeah.
I'm intimidated by having to go, I had an almost encyclopedic knowledge of 6 and 7. I put in my time, I did the work to learn all of the crazy loopholes and everything. I enjoyed learning new ones that I hadn't thought of before. And I didn't put that work into 8. And I don't want to. I didn't want to, and I don't want to now. And I'm hoping that maybe when 9 comes out, I will want to put that work in, because now that I know that 9 is on the way.
Well, it's not necessarily "quote unquote" on the way either. Like there's
we're
a
still looking at a
team,
few
but,
years
like
before it's
minimally,
truly out.
in my opinion, like 2 years at least.
But I don't want to learn an entire rule book with 2 years of partial COVID.
Well, it's
Right,
also,
yeah, that's I was kind of lending credence to your argument without realizing it, but like knowing that V9 is maybe 2 or 3 years out, and if you don't know the rules now, why the fuck learn them?
Like I never want to say don't go learn the rules. There's a lot of fun that could be had between now and then. And there's no point missing out on it, but also I don't want to go learn the rules. Again, I know that's hypocritical, but
well, let's say we're
where
a
I'm at.
year out from a new rule set coming in, right? Let's fast forward a little bit. You're a year out from a new rule set coming in, and you have a newbie that shows up, and they're like, "Oh, I want to start leveling Bard." Well, fucking why? Don't level something that's gonna just be solid throughout every, Warrior kind of pointless if you don't have armor, but like at least it's got some value and it doesn't change too much from version to version. Bard changed completely from 7 to 8. So if a newbie comes out with a year left, they're not going to hit 6 by then. What the fuck is the point of you learning a class that historically has become worse from patch to patch, I guess we'll call it?
because they like bards.
I mean, fine, but play a druid and just wear fancy clothes.
Well, that's honestly why I don't really like the names of the classes on them, because they're really just a bunch of mechanics that you can apply whatever to. But it's really difficult to kind of be like, oh, this is class option A. That's a really good sell.
Yeah.
Well, so we mentioned kind of archetype or archetypal stuff, but we were talking about it in different context. This would be a huge change, I know, but would you be more in favor of something like the melee? I know that's a bad name, but martial classes. And instead of having warrior and barbarian and X and Y and Z and P and Q, it's more like you can hand pick from this set of abilities the way that you would then like to play it.
I actually think that could be something similar to like Path of Exile or something like that.
I was about to say Path of Exile.
Like
exactly.
a tree that you can build out into. I think that would be really cool. The downside is Amtgard is really good for, I look across the battlefield and I see a yellow sash. I can pretty much know that there's going to be about 4 different ways that they're going to do stuff, right? So it takes away from that and potentially makes the game a less competitive thing. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but some people really, like the competitiveness of it. So I think we lose a little bit of what Amtgard at least was, not necessarily, I don't like tradition for tradition's sake, but one of the main things is the sashes and stuff, and why a lot of times we don't look at new classes because there's only so many colors and things like that too. So like we have a lot of problems with adding something like that, I feel like.
Well, but it's
a huge rework.
You could still have that though, and it would very much be like how talent trees are in World of Warcraft. If you see a warrior running across, wielding 2 big ass swords, he's not a protection warrior. So in the same way, if I see a melee fighter and he's holding a javelin, then I know he's not wearing more than 3 points of armor.
Because
the
if
trees
it's
are
designed
spec'd
well,
out that
yes,
way. Yeah.
but it becomes like, did he throw the javelin already? So what do I expect? Because this is kind of the weird thing.
The skill tree example I thought was maybe though I like the Warcraft one, was maybe a better one for me, because you could start, all of the classes are on the same tree. You're just starting at a different place, and by taking Scout in this one, you get your class sash, and you have list of things that are very likely going.
That's what I would actually prefer to go to in some ways, where you basically have a magic, like the magic classes exist right now with 5 points per level, and then you can buy capstone archetypes that allow you to do extra stuff with the cost of something else. Doing that, the exact same thing for the martial classes, I think is a perfect thing too. You potentially could trim down the number of sashes and then introduce new classes that way if you did it correctly, And so that is definitely an option, and it still maintains the whole, I look over, I see a white sash, I know roughly what they're going to do, or a red sash or whatever, which I think is still good. And I think that's what's really good for our game, given it's basically World of Warcraft in the sense of the battle games are nothing but the BGs and those types of games, because we don't have a unified story arc. We don't have these things, and that is fine. I feel like it's one of the things that separates us from DAG, and it separates us from the local level LARPy LARPs or lightest touch or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Well, what about if we let's look at Cabbage's idea. What if we did that and we added a symbol to the sash? So like protection would be a circle for the shield.
It's too small.
Or
I think it'll end up being too small. The sashes are like already a little suspect,
Or
especially
covered
if
up
there's
by
a
a
shield.
board. Yeah.
yeah.
And then if you have to put it on your garb, then that's bad too, because
It
you
is.
can't change garb and
But
stuff
like,
is easy.
I think there is a way to do it where you say, okay, that guy's wearing armor.
Trucker hats.
I saw that. I saw that on what was that? Buffers and Blasphemy.
Yeah, like it's silly, but in a way, it's actually
I'll
kind of
find
good.
it. Yeah, let me
But the
look this
problem
up for you real
becomes of
quick.
like, having to add something that's not part of my garb or my character or something like that. And I don't like doing stuff like that. And the sash is really the easiest of all those kind of options.
Yeah, I like the idea of you being able to sort of spec out your character the way you want it to be spec'd, and then okay, you're wearing armor. Well, I know you don't have fight after death,
Right.
Like there can be some if thens, and maybe that's too basic an example. I am sure there is a circumstance where that breaks down.
Sure.
But like, and then you have to have some artifact of that. Like in that case, like you have to have a javelin on you. Like that means if I have 3 javelins as part of my kit, I have a 4th javelin that I have strapped to my gear so that it's indicative that I am a javelin person. And then again, that's still part of your kit. You will have a javelin on you, and like that is still part of your character's unique look. It's still part of their kit, but you just don't throw that one so people know you're a ranged person.
You're
be kinda
talking about like
interesting.
it's backpack strapped on or something like that.
Sure, yeah, or it's like you've got to slot in your armor for it, and it's sort of decorative, right? Like it never comes out because it has to be
Like
there.
that, it wouldn't even have to necessarily be fully like field legal. It would just have to look like a field legal version that's pointing up even.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat, but like one
I'm
of
gonna
the
send
big
you this,
things for Amtgard is the low cost of entry too, and so you're now adding a cost of or a barrier of entry of cost.
I don't know. Okay. So yes, Amtgard has an extremely low barrier to entry, and I don't know that removes that, because you can still have a cheap ass kit even if you have to have a display piece on it.
Well, it honestly would depend on what display pieces are at the same time too.
Yeah, there's a lot to this that needs to be thought out.
I mean, I think it could be something like wands for a casting class, and if they have a wand, they can't have spell balls or something like that. I think there are some really interesting things that you could do, but again, like it's a rough. I think it's a rough sell to the current crowd. Going forward, I think it would be interesting though.
Yeah, I mean, again, this represents a whole new game almost to what Amtgard is.
Right,
So.
and that's kind of what I was getting at.
Yeah, I sent it.
The
in the picture.
Squidbilly's trucker hat thing is really funny, but again, like it's kind of accurate.
He's got one that says attuned, one that says stone skin, one that says
Yeah,
gate to fire.
they weren't for classes; they were for the different
Enchantments.
enchantments and stuff like that. So you knew what you were coming up against, because that was one of the points of that post was like, yeah, I see you dangling, however many enchantments, but it still doesn't mean I know what enchantments you have. Like white means protection, so they probably have some sort of armor or verbal like stop or something, right? Or whatever. But
This was one of the things that at Keep on the Borderlands that they did really well, because it was taking just a flat D&D module and turning it into an Amtgard thing. So when you had they use like the caution tape and stuff like that,
Yeah.
like the hot pink. So if you had hot pink on, it meant you had a very specific enchantment. Everyone knew what it was.
So I think that's potentially something we get. One of the things I think that would help Amtgard as a whole is we get rid of attune and any of the stackable enchantment things, and then you can codify each enchantment by a strip as well. So and you can end up with double strips or striped strips or something like that too. But again, it's getting to where you have to gauge how much work is that to get into the game.
Yeah, it's weird that was one of the things that was picked to set Scout apart. Like, I know it was a big deal for them in 6. They were the only class that could carry 2 enchantments there. That was their 6th level ability.
Yeah, I mean, so they still have that, so you can stack a shit ton of stuff on them.
Yeah, right. But it was weird to me that kind of became a thing and then moved into being a spell
As
to-
well. Yeah,
yeah,
that's where I
yeah.
think some of the... I don't like classes that overlap a lot as far as identities, and that's where I like... Bard is still, I don't think, really found its true identity. Like, in prior versions of the game, it was kind of like, oh, I'm kind of this and this, but you very well, you're taking spells from both spell lists, right? Like in old 6 and I think 7 even.
Yeah.
But you know, it didn't have its own role. It's
Yeah, I'm
stealing
all the
from
worst
everybody
parts of
else.
a wizard and all the worst parts of a healer, and I've got 2 swords for some reason.
Right.
I'm a bard.
You're a regular blue mage in most every game.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. The addition to with the armor, I think, was a really good addition into buying it. It's almost like you could take Bard and apply the same concepts to the martial classes or something, you know. So,
Strange
like,
that, huh?
right?
We all just have points and we pick stuff out of a pool.
Yeah. So like Bard for me like sets it up and says this is fine. This is something that everyone can do. Now there's like maybe there's an easier one that like in 6 or 7 there was Raider or whatever. Maybe there's an easy one out or something like that where it's just it has these things and you don't get to pick anything.
Was Raider actually part of V6 or V7, or was that just something we had locally?
No, it was actually in the rules.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy. Okay. Somebody was like, no, that's
think it
just your
was
local
7.
park thing. And I was like, I swear to God.
No, it was in
the
7,
rules.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up, but I'm 90% sure it was
I mean,
in
it was just slightly better barbarian, but like, it was cool.
Yeah.
Well, and so you mentioned, you know, this could be applied to the martial classes too. We were talking about it like a skill tree or something like that, but I could see, and this would be easier to balance maybe.
Right.
I could see where it was just every class had, and I'm making air quotes for here, a spell list.
Yes.
Where you picked board, sword, polearm,
Yep.
your armor, stuff like that. And that also would give a little bit more flexibility if you were a warrior. So I'm going to use Vashirin as an example here. Vashirin plays warrior, and he likes to go lightly armored. He likes
gets
to be
2 points because he uses his assassin set.
yeah, and he likes to be quick and mobile, and you
A skirmishing warrior, basically.
That's right. That's right. And I love Heralder to death, but Heralder running around in that 1 billion pounds of
That's not going to happen.
8,000 point plate or whatever he's got, he's not going to be running around the field. So it adds a little bit of flavor. And so if in this example, if it was a spell list he was going to for his warrior, he could only pick 2 points of armor, and that would free up other point, or if it was
more
even simpler.
insults or more like awes or something random that you can, you know, like more shake it offs maybe or something else, you know, like it's a really good idea. I feel like
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
it's
have
bringing the martial classes up to the same
Yes.
aspect of the magic classes that, and I think it accomplishes the idea of trying to fully put classes in 1-to-1 and you don't have to worry about it.
Oh, I would go pop star Flowbojan Thunderhammer. I would go warrior with absolutely nothing but awe, and just walk around awing everyone on the
Welcome
field.
to Bard.
Yeah. I was going to say, you can do that with ambulant
Yeah.
and combat casting.
Yeah, right.
That was the funniest shit. I did that to Heyo at the battle game where I was chasing him down. He's running Archer, and I'm
He's always running Archer.
yeah, and I'm
Love
running,
you,
you
Heyo.
know, Song of Deflection, so I'm kind of just dancing at him, right? I'm being an idiot, you know, and I'm running up on him, and he's trying to win it, and I get up and he pulls out a sword and squares up to me, and we're just kind of ditching for a second, and I just awed him while we were fighting, and we kept fighting for like another 10 seconds, and he's like, "Wait, did you awe me?" And I was like, "Yeah." "Why are you still here?" He was like, "I didn't know." I was like, "Yeah, combat caster, go away." He's like, "Oh, okay."
This is
Damn it.
the COVID rust falling off aspect.
Right. That whole you get hit by a random spell ball, and you know you look down at it, and it takes 5 seconds. Dredge like, oh, I need to do this now.
Yeah.
Why am I still moving? That was entangle.
Right.
Well, guys, we're at about an hour and a half, and we've got another podcast to record in 30 minutes.
Or something like that. I don't know what time it is right
It's
now.
6:30.
So yeah, it's somewhere around there. Hey, I think that this was a really fun Wednesday episode. Thanks so much for coming on again, Teflon.
Oh yeah, no
and,
problem.
Talking about the event that I unfortunately wasn't able to go to. Hey, I know that King Cabbage covered this at the very beginning, but thank you again so much to everyone that organized that event, put it on, worked in it, helped set things up.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much to Clover for
Absolutely,
all of the
yeah.
game stuff that you did.
Anyone who helped setting it up and everything like that too. I don't know
Yeah.
who did everything. I was not paying any attention to that.
Yep. And hey, we're meeting for events again. People did things. If you saw your friends doing stuff, mention it.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
matters.
Absolutely, yeah. So yeah, thanks to everyone who made that happen. This is a good episode. We got a little bit of everything. We got an in-depth discussion about some shit. We got funny stories. We got a Flo story. I'm going to post pictures of Flo naked in the comments afterwards because he said he got naked and ran around. So just so you guys have a visual reference.
I forgot what story I told. That's horrible.
You knelt in an anthill.
Yeah, I do remember now when you said that. I was like, I was naked? Oh no. What happened?
Yeah, so we gotta stop
There was
shooting
me
now
involved.
and take some pictures and then start up the next podcast. So we'll see you guys on Friday.